everybody, and welcome to the first ever episode of the Oceanic Racing League Race Review Podcast. I'm MelbourneMac, also known as Cozzy, and with me I have Sparks.
Hello.
Easy, alrighty Sparks, just quickly if you want to introduce yourself and stuff, obviously, how long
Uh,
you've been racing and all that.
I've been racing, or I did my first race at Saudi Arabia in season two for tier two, and I've was on and off for the rest of season two, and then I've had a full-time drive since season three in tier two. I finished, I believe, fourth in tier two standings last season, and I'm currently second.
Yeah, alright, easy. I'm MelbourneMac. I also made my debut in Saudi Arabia Season 2 for Tier 2, or back then Division 2. But yeah, far out, things have changed since then. Obviously, I had that title fight with Vipermon in the second season. Sort of, he just pulled away. That was probably one of the most dominant seasons I've ever seen from anyone in league racing. Obviously, a bunch of outside things in the real world stopped me from really, I think, challenging that season. But aside from that, I think let's get into it. And let's just talk about last week's Div 1 race. Obviously, I was racing in that one. But what were your thoughts on that race?
It was Bahrain, yeah.
Yeah,
So
Bahrain, yeah.
I was a part of that race as well. There was a lot of minor collisions, I think it was, like small spins and
Yeah.
not, yeah, like people couldn't really keep it super clean. I know Geordie disconnected a few times, and I mean, it was a pretty chaotic race, but apart from that, like when it came down to it, it was decently clean.
Yeah, I agree with you. Obviously, I had a few incidents. Obviously, I had the one with uh, Zonix, which I wasn't too happy about. The one where we're just racing side by side through the S's. I think you could put it down to a racing incident. Obviously, I'm biased, but I really do think I, the racing standards I feel like have been quite down recently. I don't know if you've been feeling the same way, but I feel like Div One just hasn't really been up to the standard that it's held to in the past, um, which I think is really disappointing because we've got quite a few good drivers who are still racing. It's unfortunate, but I mean, it just happens over time. We've got new people coming into the league. Obviously, we cracked 300 the other day, which was fantastic to see. Obviously, I've been here since season 2. I believe you have as well. And it's great to see how much this thing has grown. But yeah, the Div 1 race, it was quite interesting. Obviously, it got me. I struggled that race. I really did. Obviously, first proper race back full time. Obviously, I've been TP of Alpha for sort of this season until a couple of weeks ago. Stood down, joined McLaren, and then obviously I was Red Bull for season 3. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, Another thing on that, well, it depends who you're racing, I've found, in both
yeah,
both divisions. At the front in tier two, like the top 10 in tier two, some of the best racing I've had on any game. But t- uh, as soon as you like, if you pit and you pit into traffic, you may as well just retire in the menu.
yeah,
Like it's sometimes it's so bad, like practically getting straight lined. And then in tier one, again, it depends who you're racing. Like I know I had a race long battle with J Man and we only made contact like once. It was just a bang of the wheels when we both went deep.
yeah,
Like that
yeah.
happened. Nobody got damage and it was nice. So yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that with J-Man as well when we and him had that little scuffle towards the mid sort of part of the race. I went for an absolutely outrageous dive, and I think with a lot of the drivers in that situation, I feel like they wouldn't have given me the space that J-Man did. He sort of let me through, and I think J-Man understands the difference, which I believe is why he's been so consistent, be able to finishing races. It's just the J-Man special to be able to stay out of carnage and then take an easy bit of points there. But yeah, it's just the ability to realise that if you avoid out of incidents, then like you have a I don't know how to say this, but he sort of he knows how to get out the way and just say, okay, I've lost a place, it's fine, there's incidents all the time. And that's exactly what happened with me and Zonix. It didn't happen with me and J-Man, is that we were both battling for position, and we just both collided with each other because we were more focused on just trying to gain up that one position with about 10, 15 laps to go. Whereas J-Man is just off the start to the very end, he just does not. He doesn't. His driving standards are so great, and sometimes I just wish a fair few of the drivers on the grid would be able to have the same as that. But then again, you'd have a boring race. But that's just my perspective. But yeah, completely agree with you. I mean, I haven't been up the front much this season. It's been pretty shocking. Lack of skill has definitely dropped down from last year to this year. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it again. It just really depends on who you're racing. Like I would confidently say I can go side by side with Dexman, Kizzy, Phoenix, and Geordie. Like I probably can't keep up with these guys, but I know I could go. If I could go side by side with, if I was the same pace as all these guys, I could definitely go side by side with them for a whole lap because they're just so clean. Like Apokic, Geordie, Ryan, Bio.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think we'll just move on from this topic there, because we'll actually get on to the race review. But far out, I've just got to say one thing. I came back recently. What on earth has been going on with Spicy? When at the start of this season, he was at the back of the pack. He was almost like a traffic cone. And now he's winning races and qualifying 3/10 faster than me. It's absolutely crazy. Obviously, you've been racing with him because he's in Div 2, but far out, I don't know where this pace has come from.
I mean, it would be called practicing for like upwards of 50 hours a week for the race, along with Zonix and PS Bomber. But no, I mean, he's improving. Like, he's just taken his own kind of way to it. He doesn't. He wouldn't practice in time trial. He practices racing, like, with other people.
Yeah.
But also, it's like. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know how he won that Tier 1 race. That was crazy.
Yeah.
And in Tier 2, he understands he's a bit of a traffic cone. Like people like me, he'll just lift off and let past because it is better for his race. But yeah, he's improved a lot. I'll give that to him.
Yeah, it's like the thing we were talking about with J-Man. It's just the way he's able to understand, okay, this isn't my fight, I'm going to let him go. Which I believe that takes some people absolute years to understand that. And he's done it in, a couple of months? It's absolutely ridiculous. Full praise to Spicy for the improvement he's had over the past couple of months. It's been absolutely ridiculous.
Oh yeah, completely. It definitely has. It's crazy. Yeah, props to him for that.
Moving on now, I think we'll head over to the Tier 2 race that's coming up. Obviously, due to Bathurst, Tier 2 are a week behind, which is really unusual for us. I don't think we've ever had a tier been one race behind. So obviously you've got Tier 2 with Bahrain this week and Tier 1 with Silverstone. But yeah, it's such an interesting battle at the top. Like, it's so close compared to last year. Not last year, last game. Absolutely crazy how close it all is. Obviously, you, Hudson, and Kizzy all within, 9 points, 10 points of each other. It's been absolutely great racing.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, I don't want to sound, biased or whatever, but I disconnected in Singapore and Vegas on track for a podium. So if that didn't happen, I definitely would still be P1. But yeah, it is 9 points between the top three. It's crazy, and as we're starting to get into the later stages of the season, every point you can get is getting more and more important. I think the title's going to come down to Abu Dhabi, the last race of the season,
Oh, I love
and
that.
I think it might even come down to like the last 5 laps. We're also similarly matched on pace. Hudson has his better tracks and his straight line speed. Me and Kizzy are like practically exactly the same at every track. It's who's getting involved in the incidents at this point, and Hudson's just not getting involved in them. That's the simplest way I can say it.
Yeah.
He started at the back of the pack at Vegas. Sure, he didn't get many points, but that was because of a
Yeah, he had
incident
4
with
points there.
somebody.
Yeah.
But like, he knows he can keep his way out of trouble.
Yeah.
For example, at Monza when he pit onto softs and had about 5 or 6 cars in between me and him. In about 3 laps, he came through and overtook me.
Yeah,
That
it's kind
is
of.
that is the better tires, but it's also the skill of just cutting through those guys so confidently and quickly.
Yeah, also, obviously with you guys at the top 3, but we cannot forget about DXman and Zonix. Obviously, Zonix 35 points off the lead, but DXman within reach, obviously 26 points off Hudson, and there is plenty of races to go. There is still 9 races, and I'm looking at some of these calendars, and these are going to be some very, very interesting races. Obviously, you've got the sprint race at Austria, but then you've also got some hard, difficult tracks such as Spa. You've got Azerbaijan towards the end of the calendar, Abu Dhabi, which you could say is on a level of difficulty. I'd say it's a bit more difficult than a lot of the tracks. Obviously, Austria, quite a simple track, as well as Bahrain, but obviously you've got some of those hard braking points that can really, really mess you up. Brazil is a quite technical track, so it's just going to come down to whoever can stay out the incidents and whoever is the best driver.
I mean, yeah, it's going to be pretty close. It's definitely going to be a struggle for. I mean, even don't you can't even count Milan out.
No,
Honestly,
no.
he'd had a string of pretty unlucky races with his incidents with people all across the board, just like me. But like, you can't really cut anybody out at this point. It's so close. I think predictions won't be able to be made till like round 18.
Yeah.
It's so close.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Obviously, Milan, he had those, had the 2 third places in Italy and Las Vegas, and then obviously the 8-pointer in Singapore. But still, like, a lot of these guys you can't count out. You could even, theoretically, you could say Nuggies and Kia are still in this fight, because you never know what can happen at the top here. Especially with some of these tracks coming up. Spinning's going to be a huge problem. Contact's going to be a huge problem. Damage is going to be a massive problem for some of these guys if they just can't keep out of the incidents, which obviously we've seen quite a few people can't stay out of them. Obviously McNuggies, he's DNF'd the past 3 races. So it's just going to be able to who's going to keep it the cleanest coming into these final few races.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's also like strategy, one thing. As we know, there's a lot of safety cars. A lot of luck is dependent on the strategy. But if you get it right, it's so perfect. If you don't have to deal with the backmarker traffic, it's amazing. I'd say we're probably losing 3 to 5 seconds a lap being behind the likes of like Frosty,
Yeah, no
PS.
offense, no offense, no offense.
Yeah, obviously, but we're losing time behind them. We
Yeah.
just we go for it on them because it's like we're losing time behind these guys. The other guys I'm actually in a fight with are gonna come out of the pits ahead of me. So you send it on them and you end up getting damage, and that's practically your race over depending on when it is.
Yeah, just to come back to Spicy as well, I'm looking at this standings. There is about 5 or so drivers that are reserve drivers that have higher points than him, and he's winning in Tier 1. That is crazy to me. He's had 2 points all season, but to be fair, he has finished every race. But that's just nuts to me, the way that that's panned out. But yeah.
Yeah, again, it's Spicy. Just maybe he thrives under the pressure of Tier 1. Who knows?
Who knows, yeah.
Maybe he's sandbagging in Tier 2 and he's gonna win the championship.
Yeah, maybe take it down the last 9 races. Spicy wins every race. Statistically, it's funny to say, but statistically, that is still possible. He actually can come back and challenge for the top, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty crazy.
Yeah, alrighty. And just with that, I think we're actually going to bring on Kia now. Obviously, Kia currently 9th in the standings, racing with Alpine. 63 points, 66 behind the championship. He obviously shocked us in round 1. in Qatar, absolutely blowing everyone out. But yeah, without further ado, I think we'll bring Kia in now. Alrighty, so we've got Kia here now. Kia, obviously, great start to the season from you. Obviously, starting with the win in Qatar, then the second place in Saudi. How are you feeling at the moment?
I've been off form recently. I mean, not in just ORL, but in every single other league. I mean, it's just not normal for me to be like this.
Yeah, it's been unfortunate for you. Obviously, you've had quite a few of the changes around the teams. How's it been like transitioning from different team principals? Obviously, you started off with Lindsay in the Alpha, surprised him, had great form, and then you've seemed to. It's almost like a flick of a switch once you've gone to Alpine. It seems like, not to be rude or anything, but it seems like you just can't find your form at the moment.
Well, I mean, I was doing personal stuff for like 4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks. So it's not just ORL, but it's other leagues too,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
OBSL.
Yeah, no, that's fairly reasonable. Sparks, do you want to go ahead? Obviously, you've been racing with Kia for the past 11 races. I haven't really touched anything Tier 2 related this season. So, yeah, if you just want to go ahead and just maybe talk about some of the stuff that's been going on.
Uh, yeah, I mean, so Qatar, Kia had pulled off an amazing strategy. Keep in mind, he finished 20th at the final race last season, disqualified. So there's that. And then he won Qatar, I think,
Yeah,
after pitting with about 5 laps to go onto softs. And then, oh, what was round two? Round two was Australia.
yeah,
And at Australia, Kia, Kia got caught up in a bunch of incidents and we had that red flag at the start of the race for both the Alfa Romeos and a lot of desync. Um, Kia, I'm pretty sure from what I can remember, forgot to put his setup on
Yep.
and made it back to the front by the end of the race, but with a lot of penalties. I but I mean, apart from the few mishaps and argy bargy that there's been between us, the racing between us has been fairly clean, if I'd say myself. I mean, you were leading the championship at one point, and now you're in P9. Do you reckon there's any hopes of you getting back up to fighting for the championship?
Well, maybe not fighting for the championship, but I will say my aim is at least top five by the end of the season because I've missed a lot of rounds. So
Yeah, fair enough. And I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it is if you miss one more, your team principal, who is Geordie, has the choice to just drop you and you'll be left without a seat. So there's also that, I guess. But
what? Why am I being kicked? Huh?
you've missed, what, how many races?
I think it's 5 races.
Yeah, you've missed 5, so
Yeah,
there, yeah.
But what? I raced last race, huh?
Yeah, well, okay, you've missed 4 then, and
yeah, yeah.
if you miss,
Yeah,
yeah. Anyway, so you don't see yourself being able to get back in the championship fight?
I mean, unless I get consecutive wins or podiums, probably not. Like the gap is around
60,
what?
60.
60?
66 points.
Yeah,
66
60,
points.
66. Yeah, I doubt it, but unless I get like consecutive wins, I doubt it. Just yeah, it's
Yeah.
not gonna happen.
Is there any tracks you can see coming up that you're like, yeah, you know what, I'm really gonna try push it here? Obviously, you got Bahrain, you've got Britain, you've got Spa, Austria, Japan, Netherlands, Brazil, Azerbaijan, and Abu Dhabi. Do you reckon there's any of those tracks you can really push at it and really have a go at the win?
Well, I mean, next race is it's kind of a weak track for me in my opinion, but honestly, I think maybe either Spain, Austria, or Japan. Maybe that's the tracks I'm looking forward to. Or Brazil.
Yeah, yeah, obviously. So I think I missed. I think it's Spa, not Spain.
Oh, Spain,
That's
Spain,
yeah,
yeah, Spain.
that's my bad. But yes, obviously Spa, quite a difficult track for some. Obviously last year we had the corner of death in qualifying. But yeah, I think a lot of these tracks coming up, if you really know them quite well, you could really gain an advantage, obviously with Britain, quite a technical track in some elements, obviously through Maggots and Beckett's, places like that, and then Spa, obviously that whole track is quite technical, and if you really literally put about a millimetre too much pressure on the throttle, you're going to be spinning around. Austria, I'd say, is quite a simple track for many. I feel like we'll see a very spread pack in Austria just because of the amount of DRS and ERS zones. And if you have high downforce, low downforce, if you're zooming through the corners but slow on the straights, I feel like there's going to be a huge gap from like quite a few packs. Obviously, I reckon probably the top 4 or 5 might be a bit close, and then obviously you got the midfield and the rear end. I reckon that could really change up quite a lot. And then obviously you've got Japan. I'd say that's probably one of the most fun tracks, I think. I don't know if you agree with that, Sparks or Kia, but I find that such a fun little technical track to try and get around and stuff like that. And then with the Netherlands, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. Japan is quite a fun track, but it's really tricky to get right. But when you get it right, you're going to be going so much quicker than everybody else.
Feels so
And
good.
and as you were saying at Austria, I feel like a few of these tracks coming up, maybe not Bahrain, just because of how, I don't want to say simple, but how much of the track is just a straight line, flat.
Yeah, great.
But Britain, it is Spain because we have already done Spa.
Oh, I thought it was...
Yeah,
That's my bad.
Britain. I feel like Britain, Austria, Japan, Netherlands, Brazil, and Baku are going to be just they're easy to do, but easy to do fast.
Yeah.
If you understand what I mean.
Yeah, sorry, I completely messed up the Spain, which is obviously another tricky but okay track. Obviously, there is quite a few straights there, but there is quite a few sections of the track where if you really do get on the throttle a little too much, you're going straight into the gravel, you're ended up backwards. Obviously, we saw in the practice race earlier this season in Spain, I reckon there was probably about over 60 spins, maybe more from the race, which I thought was just shows how much of a difference a lot of these tracks will make towards the end of the season. You've obviously got Abu Dhabi in there, which is quite an easy track with the additions they've made to it. Obviously, they've taken out the chicanes, the chicane up to the hairpin, and then out of the straight, obviously, you don't have that chicane anymore. Widened up the section under the hotel, and then Azerbaijan, that's chaos. We've seen that every single season. This track, we can expect 5+ safety cars on that track. The way we've seen it happen in Tier 2 and Tier 1 the past couple of seasons, it's just going to be chaos. As we were mentioning before, like, this is all going to be down to who can stay out of the incidents and who is able to keep it clean.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there. There's a few, like, I know a lot of people are really strong at a few of these tracks. I can say Zonix is pretty strong at Brazil.
Very strong.
Yeah, DXman's pretty good at Britain, I'd say. There's a few other drivers that aren't really popping straight into mind right now that are good at these other tracks, but I think it's just going to come down to consistency. I don't think it's going to matter who wins the most races here in these next few races. I think it's going to matter who is on the podium the most.
Yeah, easy. Alright, thank you, Kia, very much. Obviously, know you're a bit busy, but cheers, thanks very much for joining in. Alrighty, nice to have Kia on there. Now we're going to go into the Tier 2 predictions and sort of like how would you say it? Like a race preview, that's what it is. So it's the race review and preview podcast. So we're going to Bahrain. obviously with Tier 1 happening last week, we obviously have a slight indication of what might happen. Obviously you've got, as we were talking about, the racing, the strategies, safety cars, all stuff like that. I reckon qualifying, I reckon we might get a curveball. I reckon we might see someone who's been down in the backs for a bit. I reckon we could see, I think Frosty or someone like that, someone towards the bottom who's going to surprise us and come out with an absolutely belting lap and take pole. I don't know what you think about that. I know you're quite strong around here. I expect, obviously, that top 5, I expect them to be up quite high. I think Zonix, I believe from last, obviously, because he got some practice in last week with the Tier 1 race, I don't think he's very strong around here. I think he struggles. I think we might see Zonix drop down that championship order quite a bit this race. I don't know about you, but...
I mean, I can say the same. He didn't do super well in Bahrain considering the amount of drivers that did finish the race. But his time trial is quicker than me. But if you like, that is only one lap. So what I'm thinking we're going to see a good qualifying from Zonix, but I feel like he's going to drop back in the race. And then I know I raced Tier 1 and I finished highest of all Tier 2 drivers in that race. It was either, I think P5 I finished after letting some of the actual Tier 1 drivers through on the last few laps because they need those points more than me.
Yeah.
So.
Very, very respectful of you. Yeah, to be honest, I agree with you. Obviously, but with time trials, though, you have those consistent tyre temperatures. They don't move up, they don't go down. You've got the lowest fuel possible for the entire thing. You can restart in that one. Like, if you make a mistake and you spin out, your tyres don't get wear throughout the lap. That's why I think we're seeing a fair few drivers. I'm seeing a lot of them setting absolutely bolting laps on time trials. And, yeah, it's just like, I just don't know if some of these guys can transfer over those time trial laps into quali. That's why I'm a little bit on the edge of it. But, yeah, it's just the way that it seems to pan out. For quite a few of these drivers. I've seen it myself. I'm going about 1 to 2 seconds slower in the real race, maybe 5 or so tenths. But with those conditions you have in the time trial, I think that's why it's affecting a fair few of the drivers, because they expect in time trials, oh yeah, I can go full throttle through here, because you've got max tyre temperatures, pretty much the max grip you can get. But yeah, I feel like, because obviously, as I was saying, you can go full, let's say for Maggots and Beckett's example, you could go full throttle in that in time trial. Obviously you can't, but theoretically. And then in the race, you try to go full throttle, bang, spin out, or you miss the apex and you're in the wall. It's just, it's so different to actual quali practice. That's why I prefer to do the short quali practice rather than time trial. Like, I'll do a couple laps of time trial just to learn my way around the track, what gear I need to be in, roughly where I can brake, and then I'll just go practice short quali for the rest of the week, just because of the situation it actually is. The situational thing for short quali, you have the exact same tyre temperatures most of the time, have probably the exact same fuel load that you're going to have in short quali, and you also have the traffic element. In time trials, you don't have that traffic element. Obviously, the AI are a little worse getting out the way, but that's just the way I see it with some of these drivers who just aren't transferring their pace from time trials over to quali.
I mean, I guess you could also say there's a bit of a risk versus reward thing. Like, as you said before, time trial is just a pause and restart lap. But in the actual session, if you spin out and hit a wall, that's it. You're done. You're starting from the back. There's also the different. I know a lot of these drivers just copy the top setup for time trial, but then in a race they'll use a different setup. And a lot of the times, these guys are taking setups from places they shouldn't be taking setups that aren't suited to their driving, and they don't have enough. They're not getting enough grip grip per se from the aero, and it's just it wears their tyres out a lot quicker, so their lap times are less consistent, and it just doesn't work for them. It might be a bit more pace, but it's really not worth it in the long run.
Yeah, I completely agree. Obviously, I get my setups. So I get it from a guy, Sim Racing Setups. He's quite good. But still, I adjust those setups. I don't go with those setups and then say, yeah, you know what, good enough. I adjust it to the way I like to drive. Just like with Silverstone coming up, I'm taking a little bit more downforce to the track because I know I want to go faster in those corners rather than being quick on the straights because I know I can make up the time in the corners compared to some people who will bring their downforce up, I believe it is, like lower, so they can get, faster on the straights. But I like that stability level, and I feel like it's a lot what these guys are doing. They're taking the time trial setups, they're using them in the race, and they don't transfer to the race because they're made for a one lap, bang, 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 get multiple laps in on a time trial. But yeah, I completely agree with you. A lot of these guys aren't adjusting their setups for race scenarios, which it baffles me sometimes just because of the way the competition is. Where if you're not keeping up and you're not staying consistent, you're gonna drop down heavily. Like that happened to me in season 3. I wasn't consistent. I wasn't racing every week, and I just kept dropping down. And I've seen that with quite a few drivers this season. Mickey, he was up there to start, but he lost his consistency. He kept gaining points. He got the second in Imola. It just kept dropping and dropping and dropping. You've seen him. He has not finished a race in the past 4 he's raced. The consistency, it baffles me sometimes.
I mean, yeah, sometimes drivers just aren't in their groove, you could say as well. I know it sounds not right, but like if you're not feeling it, you don't trust the car or yourself, you're gonna be going slower, or you're gonna put it in a wall.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. But with that said, we'll go through 3 predictions here. How many safety cars, how many DNFs, and the podium? I'll let you go ahead there first.
Okay, so Tier 2 Bahrain, safety cars. I reckon only 2, as the walls are pretty far away. Like, I mean, come on, if you're hitting that wall, what are you doing? Hold the brakes. And then DNFs, I think there's gonna be 4 DNFs, and I have a feeling one of them's gonna be on lap 1.
Yeah, agree with you.
And then the podium, maybe a bit of a shocker. I'm thinking, just off the top of my head, I think it's gonna be Milan P1, and then
You pulled that one out the bag.
and then Phoenix P2.
Okay.
And I feel like it's going to be a scrap between me, Kizzy, and Hudson for P3.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't that be a good one there? You, Hudson and Kizzy, obviously all battling it out. I'd love to see a final lap battle. Someone absolutely send it. Because the championship here, if you DNF here, you could be in some serious trouble. Especially for those top 3, top 5. If you DNF here, I think if your DXman's on X Milan, Phoenix, Nuggets, Kia, all those from 4th down to 9th, if you DNF here, it's over. I genuinely believe that. Obviously, the top 3 could maybe get away with it. You probably wouldn't get as much leeway just because of how good the top 3 are. But yeah, I hate that I'm going second now because it sounds like I'm copying you. But I reckon there'll be, I'm going to go 1 safety car. 3 DNFs. I would have said 4, but you said it, so I'll go lower. I reckon 3. I agree with your first lap one. I reckon there'll be a first lap one, a 12th lap one, and then a last or second last lap DNF. And I think my podium, I'm going to go Phoenix in 3rd. I think I reckon I'm going to go second Zonix, and I think first Kizzy. I think Kizzy will win this race. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt DXman either. I wouldn't be surprised if he's 4th or 5th battling with you and Hudson and people like that. But yeah, that's who I think is going to take it out here. But yeah, I reckon that's what's going to happen with Tier 2 here, and I genuinely think it could go either way. I reckon there's probably about 10 or 11 drivers that I reckon could probably pull one out here and steal a win. Obviously, you or Kizzy need a win. Kizzy, I'm surprised. I'm looking at the standings here. He has not won a race all season. He is in 2nd place in the standings, and he has not won. Hudson, obviously, has won 4. You've won 2. Been on the podium 4 times this season. Hudson's been on the podium. Basically, the only times he's been on the podium is when he's won.
That is correct. He's only been on the podium when he's won,
Yeah.
and 4 of my podiums have been wins.
Yeah. Which
I mean, two of my
yeah,
4.
2,
Sorry.
I was going to say 2 of your 4. But yeah, I think this is going to be a very close race. I feel like we'll either see polar opposites. I think we'll either see what we saw in Div 1, where there was about 4 or 5 different packs of cars all fighting for very different positions, or we're going to see probably 1st to 13th all battling for the win. I think it's going to be that type of race where the pack is so scrunched up, and if you make a mistake, you're going to drop 5 or 6 positions. I genuinely think that's the way this race is going to pan out, or you're going to at least lose 10 seconds. But yeah, that's just how I reckon it'll go on. Any final thoughts from you?
I mean, nah, not really. I just want to add, who do you think's gonna take pole?
Oh yeah, good one. I think DXman. I think he might take pole here because we saw him. He was quite quick towards the start of the season. But yeah, I reckon DXman might put it on pole, and we saw it at Qatar. He was quite quick and then dropped down because of a couple mistakes. I think that's what's going to pan out here, and I'm backing DXman to put it on pole.
All right, yeah, fair enough. Okay, I'm gonna put a bit of a bolder one out there.
Oh, here we go.
McNuggets. If McNuggets
Alrighty.
is gonna race, I think McNuggets can take pole.
Yeah, well, hold on. Let's have a
This
look
is-
at the attendance. Let's see who's actually. So
Oh yeah.
no, he is. Okay, he hasn't said anything about not racing. He hasn't
Oh.
actually said anything.
DXman hasn't said he's racing either.
Okay, so okay, I'll take that one back. So we've just made predictions here, and some people aren't even racing. You know what? I'm gonna go. You know what? I reckon. Oh, you know what? I reckon Kizzy's gonna put it on pole.
Man, I was gonna say that. I mean,
you could say Kizzy, you just look like a bit of a loser for copying me.
you know what? Boulder. I think Spicy's gonna take it.
That would actually be. I want. Oh, I want to be commentating this race because I reckon this is going to be an absolute. This is going to be one for the ages. I genuinely think that. I reckon this could be one of the best Tier 2 races we've ever seen. I don't know if you feel the same way because obviously I'm not racing. I haven't seen.
I feel
any
like
of the
it's
races,
gonna be
but
a-
yeah.
I feel like it's gonna be a good one to commentate. Like Qatar, but look, Bahrain has a lot of fast corners.
Yes.
That's just the truth.
Yes.
There's a mix of fast and slow. You could argue the same characteristics to Qatar, and Qatar was such a good race.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good race for me, but it was a good race.
It was a good race to watch and commentate. I forgot I actually was commentating that one.
So this race is either gonna go super well and there's gonna be like 6 or 7 cars in it to win,
Yeah.
or it's gonna be horrible. Somebody's gonna pull it out the bag and
Yeah.
somebody's gonna win.
Yeah. Alrighty. I think we'll move on to tier 1 now. If you want to go ahead with that one. So for tier 1, obviously made, you could say debut. I'd say return. So some people would probably say debut. But return. And so I'm just looking at the standings here. We've had 39 people race this season in tier 2. That is absolutely nuts. And you're actually ahead of me. You have more points than me.
In tier 1.
Yeah. So not the most consistent. 2 points, 12 points, and then you just see that absolutely huge gap. I'll see if I can pop it up on the screen. I don't know if we'll be able to.
That is where I did start commentating. I can confirm that. We needed a commentator, and so I started doing that. But I reckon if I was still racing tier 1, I could.
I think you were for a bit.
I raced I raced until Hungary,
Yeah.
and then I've commentated since.
I don't know why it doesn't say DNF for Bahrain, because I definitely raced. 131 points off the championship leader, Geordie. Obviously, Alpine are dominating this championship at the moment.
Oh, first and second, 1 point separating. SV's in there though.
SV's.
Pretty.
And then obviously Ryan, the reserve, who's literally raced. He raced 4 races this season, the first 4, and he hasn't raced since, and he's still in 4th place.
Yeah. It's
Alright.
yeah, it's a very close. Same with tier 2, obviously. It's so close at the front, and then there's just a huge drop off.
Yeah, obviously
Like
you've
that,
got
that gap between P4 and P3 is 59 points in tier 1.
Yeah. And then obviously the top 3, there's 6 points in it. Yeah, obviously we're gonna go. I think we've already covered last race quite good. So now we're gonna go over what we think is gonna happen this weekend or tomorrow. When we're recording this, which is on Saturday. I don't know if this will be out tonight or tomorrow morning, but hopefully this is out before the race. But yeah, you've also got Britain. I think you've got so many reserves up the top there. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's gonna be. I reckon there'll be 1 safety car. I don't think there'll be many safety cars here at Britain.
Yeah, the walls are just like you have to be trying to hit the wall at that point. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I think DNFs. I think we'll see. I think we'll go 3 or. I think I'm gonna have 4 DNFs, and I think it's just gonna be retirements because they can't be bothered. And then what? So okay, I'll go pole. I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say Senna puts it on pole. And then my top 3. I think it's gonna be. I think it'll be.
Oh, hang on. Check the attendance.
Oh yeah, here we go. Hold on. Yeah, let me check the attendance first before I make my prediction. Senna not racing. Interesting. You know what? I'll just go SVYT on pole then. And then I have.
Taking my pick again.
Yeah, once again, I picked a driver that is not racing and then has stolen yours. And then I think for podium, I think I'm just going to go Apokic, SVYT, and Geordie. Apokic is racing, isn't he?
No, Apokic and Geordie not checked in. Geordie said no, Apokic's broken his hand, so.
Oh, okay. Alrighty. Never mind. Take that back. So Alpine are actually going to lose quite a few points. Far out. Can I just pick someone that's actually racing? You know what? SVT winning, Huey second, J-Man third.
Okay.
MelbourneMac fourth.
Okay. I think SV pole, SV. No. I think Jordan pole. I think Jordan's gonna take pole.
Okay.
I think Bio's gonna come P2 in qualifying, and then disqualify himself so he has a challenge. I think Bio's gonna still win the race. I think Jordan's gonna mess up again and finish P3, and SV's gonna finish P2. And MelbourneMac's going to DNF.
Okay, alrighty, no need. Could you go through that again? That was very complex.
Okay.
Let's go P3, P2, P1. No need for backstory.
P3, Jordan.
Jordan, okay.
P2, SV.
Yep.
P1, Bio.
Fire out, okay. That's an interesting one. Alrighty, and sorry, safety car and DNF predictions.
Safety car, maybe, okay, a VSC. I don't think there's going to be a full safety car, but I think there's going to be a VSC. And I think there's going to be 5 or 6 retirements just because they can't be bothered.
Okay, calm down. No need to call me out.
But yeah, I think there's just going to be 5 or 6 DNFs in the pits just because they can't be bothered.
I think five DNFs in the pits and 1 DNF from me absolutely bashing it through maggots and Beckett's and putting it in a wall. Alrighty, I think that's actually going to wrap this one up here. I think this is just under an hour. But thank you all very much for listening to the first ever episode of the Oceania Racing League race review / preview podcast. If you do want to see more, let us know. We'll probably be doing one next week. Sorry it's taken so long for this. Obviously, I think if you're in the server, you know this has been a few weeks in the making. But yeah, any final words, Spark?
Nah, not really. I mean, my predictions are all right and yours are all wrong. That's all I have to say.
Easy. Alright, cheers. Thanks very much, everyone, and we'll see you next week.